Guys, welcome back. It is time for another craft roulette. Last weekend, or I guess I should say yesterday, we had Amanda Stevens and Carrie Rhodes were on for craft roulette 145, and we had some pretty cool parameters. One is the only color parameter is a white background, which I went ahead and cut this out of 100-pound cardstock. You'll see why in a minute. And then light was one of the other parameters, either a real light or a thing that emits light. I think I'm going to go with sort of a star thing. I had this paper left over from last week. I'm going with kind of a New Year's theme because I had these Cat Scrappiness New Year's things. I have this really cool glitter mix that's like stars and champagne glasses and black sequins. Then I had one of their card kits. I bought a bunch of these and I haven't used them yet, so I think this might be the time to break one out. Basically, it gives you the acetate, the front piece, and then the foam. So I think we can just attach this with dry adhesive, hopefully. And then let me see, so diagonal cut is the card parameter. And then, what am I missing? Oh, off to the side is the attribute. So the plan basically, let me just get this out. And it tells you how to use it, but I mean, I think if you put together a shaker card, you'll definitely get it. As I think I've said before with these, some kits, these are pre-adhesive. These are not pre-adhesive, so you basically want to tack this down with a dry adhesive of some sort, probably. You could use wet adhesive as well. It just would take a long time. It takes a while for wet adhesive and acetate to dry. So I'm going to see if I can get away with Glue Runner. You basically want to use a pretty good amount of adhesive just so you have good adhesion. This is foam, so it's super lightweight too. This is kind of like very thin draft board. I'm going to see if I can ink it directly. If it doesn't work, we can definitely go with paint. And then here's the acetate sheet. So basically you would put the acetate behind this front piece, and then you'd put that on here, and there'd be glitter inside, and then you could shake it. And I'm thinking of going with blue. This is pretty monochromatic, so I want to bring in at least some color. I actually haven't used this product before, so I guess we'll both be experimenting with it a little bit together. And then this pattern piece will go up here, and I'm thinking cutting it diagonally that way. And then, of course, this has Happy Holidays as a sentiment. But let's work on the most unknown part first, since the rest of this will go together pretty easily. I'm going to grab the Happy New Year and see if I can just directly ink on it or not. And we will both find out if this works together. This ink pad is definitely juicy because I managed to turn my hand blue about 10 times. But I saw a lot of, with the hop I did, and you can see the previous video. I'll probably link it below because it's going on until the 9th. But the hop for KCC9, a lot of people were just using these Catherine Pooler pads and just using them to change the color of cardstock. So I'm curious if I can just sort of like, ooh, yes, you do get a little line, but that is not totally not to my liking. Let's see. Oh, this is working. Awesome. Hooray. Just sort of trying to not dye my hand blue again. It's very much like working with Bristol paper in that, like, it doesn't really sink in, so you kind of have to, like, buff out these weird places a little bit. I'll grab a, like, if I get anything, like, I'm pretty much going to get, like, that looks pretty good. It's sort of lightly wiped. I'll do New Year a little bit more just to make sure we get into all these grooves. I've been actually liking my Misty for doing this kind of work, so I'm just touching this ever so lightly to try and, like, blend out the top, basically. Obviously, you could let this dry and then figure it out in a little more detail, but like Bristol, you probably want to just sort of let it dry on its own for a while. Not a while, but uh, because the surface is not porous, it takes longer than like on a cardstock where everything would just kind of sink in and then you'd be good to go. But I'm going to get some of the excess ink off the door of my Misty, and we'll set this aside. Set that aside. I did get my hands kind of blue, but not terribly. We will let that guy dry, clean my hands off, and see if we can't get the rest of this card together whilst that is working. One thing I will say about shakers is really only the only thing that can really kind of go wrong is if you wind up putting adhesive on the inside, because that has sort of a tendency to make sure I'm not gonna. I'm gonna use some blue glitter on this. I don't think it would be awful if I turn my cardstock blue, but if I can avoid it, it's always nice to like have fewer things to deal with. So I am just really liking this AdTech glue runner, except for when it runs out. So we're going to make sure we know what direction this opens. I guess it doesn't terribly matter for this, but later it will. So I'm just going to put our heavy-duty 100-pound cardstock on top of this so that I can use adhesive directly on that. I will grab a replacement, of which I'm burning through these really fast just because I did a couple series. I don't know, I did, between my like Christmas card series and the KCC9 stuff, it's like we have made, I don't know, quite a number of cards recently here, and that's awesome. And there we go. Get this out. Get the refill in, get the door back on. I actually broke this one at some point opening it, but you know, it still works. There we go. So let's see if we can't get some glue on the back of this guy and glue it down. Before we glue it down, anything we can do to sort of avoid getting glue on the glitter is probably good. So I'm just going to run my hand around the inside a little bit. Oh, you can't, sorry, I was off screen. Just to see if there's any extra glue. It doesn't look too bad, so that's cool. And I think I want this just sort of right in the bottom corner and off to the side to meet our parameter. So I'm just going to push that down, and that is definitely down. And now I'm going to, let me just go and kind of like this full width, so I'm going to grab my paper cutter quick. We're going to cut this to 4 inches. And we want to make this diagonal, so I'll see if I can't. You can do this in the paper cutter too, obviously, so that's what I'm going to try to do, and hopefully it'll be a pretty good diagonal. And that looks pretty good. Certainly diagonal. And we have an extra if we wind up doing something silly. So I like that's going to look pretty good. And then we have our Happy New Year. I don't even have a clean finger, but let's see. Yeah. This dried pretty nicely. It has a kind of a cool mottled look, which I actually like, which I wasn't planning on, but basically it'll look like that, only with glitter and plastic in it. So, let us think I'll tack down my other piece of pattern paper first. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Okay. Someone was saying that they're relieved that I have trouble with Tape Runner because it's not just them, but definitely a thing that I have sort of a love-hate relationship with. I love that it's fast. I hate that, like, if you jack it up, it's hard to recover. So we got that. So white background off to the side. We have two elements potentially, because I'm considering this like a New Year's ball that's dropping. So, I mean, this could potentially be light, but we have stars too with Dement Light, so you can pick whichever you want. Going to get some glitter here. I guess my advice is you usually need less than you think you do. At least that's usually my assumption. I mean, this pack doesn't have a huge amount in it, but, you know, like, it depends how much glitter you want. This is probably okay. Let's see if we put this on. Do we have sort of a sense of... This is going to be... can be a little bit staticky, but, like, do we have a sense of how this will line up? No. But this will be pretty good. This will give you a lot of glitter, which I like. Okay. Let's do the best job we can to not make a huge mess. As the next step is getting glue on the surface here, ideally without sticking any glitter to anything. That is quite sticky. Okay, that's, I think, plenty sticky enough. We will then, as you can see, this isn't a perfect circle, so basically as long as we contain the glitter and don't have overhang, we should be fine, because we're going to put the other piece on top of it, and any of our sins will be nicely covered up. I'm going to tape that again. Somehow I always manage to get like the slightest bit of dirt in my like glue runner, and I never figured out why, but you know, some combination of pets and other things, I'm sure. I'm just gonna push down. There is no actual glitter behind the Happy New Year's, but that's basically what we're working with, and the glitter is not really going anywhere. You do get a little static, as you can see, so some of the stars kind of stay up there, which is pretty cool. Very neat. So, let us move on to a little embellishment time. And do I have... Oh, I'll be naughty and use my good scissors to try and open this. I somewhere have two pairs of utility scissors that I would prefer to use for stuff like this, but anywho, it's always something. But basically, see if this is a little on the lid we might just use. So I'm just going to grab a little on my finger to kind of, and then just sort of like tap it around to whatever level of tapping I like. I think I'm going to do most of the background. I think it kind of looks better if you do it more as a layer than like, yeah. I mean, I think that, yeah, I think that looks better. I mean, this is very much like finger painting, so if you like that, you'd probably like working with this product a lot. As I may or may not have mentioned, for my heavier cardstock, I like using Bristol paper. So this is not really going to sink in. Unfortunately, there we go. which is good. I am trying to get a little closer here without getting it like all over everywhere. This is actually a really fun product to use. If you like glitter, I guess. It's less messy than traditional glitter since it's in a gel, but like it's still hard to be like super selective. So this is a little bit more of a messier card than I would normally do, but hey, that's why it's craft roulette and we can experiment with things. But it definitely looks very celebratory. See if I can't de-glitter my fingers that are covered in ink. Yeah. Well, it's hard to get the glitter off. So good news, the glitter seems to be very well bonded to the adhesive. And as this sits, it's actually getting more sparkly, which is kind of an interesting phenomenon. But let me just see if I can clean up the edges a little here. But I think we're good. I'm going to continue to let this dry, but sparkly card and New Year's Eve. Sentiment off to the side, diagonal cut. Lots of things that emit light, whether you're a New Year's ball or a star. And a white background that we've put glitter all over. So there we go. And then I just left it sort of whatever sentiment you want on the inside. So I think that's pretty neat. Anyway, thanks much, and catch you guys later.